Coming up, a recap of the Oscar Awards.
And a Broadway spectacular takes the Hampshire stage. And welcome back to another episode of Word on the Street. I'm Grace Lathrop.
And I'm Hannah Lipsky, and we've got a super exciting show for you today.
That's right, Hannah. I got to see an incredible performance at Hampshire this past weekend, and not to mention, we've got a lot of Oscar updates to go over.
Oh, that's right. So with that being said, sit back, relax,
and here's the Word on the Street.
So we've got a lot to talk about with the Oscars that just aired. So first of all, let's start by talking about Cynthia and Ariana's performance of Defying Gravity.
I absolutely loved it. I thought that was like the showstopper of the entire award ceremony. And what a great way to just kind of cap off this amazing chemistry that they had on screen.
And I love that they both got to do a little solo part and then came together to do the final part of Defying Gravity. And I saw a lot on social media about how when Ariana stepped back and had that one shot of like her just like beaming at Cynthia, it was a tribute to the Tony Awards when Kristen Chenoweth did that for Idina Menzel. So it was just a really cute moment.
It was really sweet, and I know I for sure loved just watching them shine on stage.
100%.
But we've got a lot of films taking home awards from the Oscars, and the biggest win of the night went to Anora and not Amelia Perez, which was kind of surprising considering they swept at the Golden Globes.
Yeah, very, very unexpected. This is a bit of a shock considering Anora was the underdog of award season. It did win a lot of smaller awards at some of the other festivals, but not a single Golden Globe.
Yeah, and Anora is about a young woman from Brooklyn who falls in love with an oligarch but then her parents find out about it and they're really quick to want to ruin it and just disregard the marriage completely.
Definitely.
And Anora, like we said, took home 5 out of the 6 Oscars it was nominated for, including Best Picture, Directing, Original Screenplay, and Film Editing, all going to director, producer, and writer Sean Baker. Baker has made dozens of small indie films. This is his claim to fame, though. Anora kind of swept or came out of nowhere, and that's such a great thing for these smaller films. And it received 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but ironically, the viewer ratings were mixed. Some argued that it was a little long, and there was some unnecessary sexual scenes thrown in here and there that didn't really contribute to the plot a whole lot, but it definitely was the underdog of award season with only $16 million budget versus the top runners like Dune Part 2 and Wicked with over $100 million each in their budgets. So it's just super impressive, and I love to see it.
And leading actors went to Mikey Madison for Anora as well. And it's really well deserved since it was the big winner of the night. And this was her first lead role in a major film. And it's really impressive. And I did not know who she was when I saw she won the award. I was like, I just did a quick Google. And I saw that she was actually in the latest Scream movie that starred Jenna Ortega. And she played the best friend and had the whole plot twist thing at the end. And she did phenomenal in that. So I was like, okay, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, she's done a lot of smaller roles, but this, like you said, was her first main role. And she won. So it's really impressive, and hats off to her. And I'm sure we're going to see her in a lot of other movies and films coming up.
Yeah, and she won over the anticipated winner and industry legend Demi Moore, which I know a lot of people had a lot of opinions about, considering Demi won the Golden Globe for The Substance for leading actress. And usually the Golden Globes kind of predict the Oscars, but this year was very skewed, and I don't know exactly what happened, but it was just, very different.
Yeah, I actually kind of liked that, though, because I feel like it's just kind of predictable when one just leads to the other. But, you know, I was kind of rooting for some other things that we saw that they won some awards at the Oscars opposed to the Golden Globes. So, I mean, Demi Moore is wonderful, and she's a legend, but it's just really nice to see these younger actresses who aren't in as much or don't have their name out quite as much yet get these awards. And the best animated feature film went to DreamWorks animation studio Flow, beating out big studios like Disney, Pixar, and with movies like Inside Out 2. And DreamWorks released Wild Robot, which was also in this category as well, along with Wallace and Gromit, which was also super popular. So it's just, again, these smaller industry films really popping out, which is just fantastic if you ask me.
And surprising everyone, but the best adapted screenplay, which means from a book or a play or another written text, went to Peter Strahan in Conclave, this was pretty much the only award they won at the Oscars, which is a little bit surprising for some people, but yeah. And best visual effects, to no surprise, went to Dune Part 2. In cinematography went to The Brutalists, Lowell Crawley, and I wanted to say a little bit about what cinematography is because I don't think it gets enough recognition because cinematography is one of the biggest parts of a film. The director or the cinematographer works right under the director who is focused on the bigger picture on connecting everything together. But the cinematographer's job is focused on the overall visual aspect and how it looks on the screen. So this is the camera and the lighting and how all of these go together and make the big picture at the end.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting is it's such a tedious task and such an important role that doesn't always get quite as much recognition as some of the other roles, but it's super, super important and not everyone can do it. It takes a lot of talent and a lot of practice, and I mean, yeah, it's hats off to The Brutalist. I know that show also won Best Original Score, and the Best Original Song went to Amelia Perez for the song El Mal, which they only won 2 awards out of the total 13 they were nominated for at the Oscars, which was a complete 180 for the Golden Globes where they literally won everything. But I have not seen Amelia Perez, but only because I have heard it is very bad, and I just don't have any desire to watch it, and that's why I haven't heard great reviews from anyone about it.
And we'll talk about some of the controversy surrounding the Amelia Perez cast a little bit later. But moving on to some of the actors, Adrien Brody won Best Actor for The Brutalist, and this movie has gotten a lot of backlash after it was released that AI was actually used to write parts of it. And I know this is kind of a controversial topic right now because, you know, with all the protests with SAG-AFTRA, most of the protests were about AI being used for writing and for actors' voices and for background actors. So that's surprising that this was allowed and that they were kind of, you know, told us about it because that was a big part of the protest was trying to get rid of AI.
Yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about this whole AI topic in screenwriting. I know when we had the opportunity to talk to some professors who are screenwriters here at the university, they are very anti-usage of AI because their main argument is that it takes away from creativity. And I 100% agree. However, we're just taught so much now that it's a tool and we have it right at our fingertips. So it's almost like if it's right there, why not use it? But in a creative setting, it just takes away, and it takes away the credit from these people that have worked so hard to perfect this film or something, you know, anything, a television show, anything. And AI, while it knows everything, it lacks creativity through and through. And so, you know, it's just kind of surprising. I don't know how much The Brutalist used it in total, you know, which I can't imagine that AI wrote the entire script, but it is kind of interesting that people do know it was used, and I know for sure now when I'm going to watch it, I'm going to see it in a little bit of a different light.
Definitely. Yeah.
And Adrien Brody, when he accepted his award, spoke for over 5 minutes during his acceptance speech, which is kind of crazy considering most of these last maybe 30 seconds.
That's just weird.
It was so weird.
Anyways, Zoe Saldana won Best Supporting Actress, which I have opinions about, obviously. But anyways, I'll yield. And obviously, Mikey Madison won Best Leading for Enora. And then Best Supporting Actor went to Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain. And he's done really well this season for these awards, but let's talk a little bit about his acceptance speech.
Yeah, Kieran Culkin is an interesting fella. He went up and grabbed his award, and he explained that last award season, his wife told him that if he won an Oscar, she would give him another kid, and he mentioned this while on stage and was like, well, I guess that's happening now, and it was just so uncomfortable. I don't know.
Didn't he was also censored for his speech for swearing, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so, and which happens sometimes with, you know, award shows, but it seemed like a pretty long blip of time for him to be
it was just so uncomfortable for everyone. And I was reading articles, and the press is saying it was just so awkward, and took away from his big moment. It totally just like squashed everything he had just worked for on stage. At least that's how I felt too. Like, it just really took away from his moment, unfortunately.
Yes. And with Best Supporting Actress, again, I'm gonna go back and say Ariana Grande deserved this award. I have my opinions on Emilia Perez, as a lot of people do, about just the quality of the film. Zoe Saldana did amazing with what she was given. I'm not going to lie, she did a great job. I can argue that I don't think she should have been in the supporting actress category. I felt that she had more screen time, she sang more, she had more lines, and just more character development than the leading actress. So I was really confused when I saw that she was supporting, because I felt that the story was actually about her. So, but again, I think Ariana just deserved it.
Yeah.
She did phenomenal in Glinda, and just, I've just never seen someone become a character as much as she did in real life. I mean, maybe Austin Butler for Elvis, but she really just lived and breathed Glinda. And hearing some behind the scenes talks with directors and producers and interviews, it was a very big collaborative effort developing these characters for this movie, and I just loved how much they focused on character development versus other aspects of movies that don't matter as much. And you know, you want to hear how they came up with these ideas. So I was just disappointed for her, and unfortunately, I think that this was her chance to win for Wicked. When Part 2 comes out, this is Cynthia's time to shine. I think that this was just her opportunity. I'm just so sad that she missed it.
Yeah, I am too. And I know Emilia Perez had so much drama surrounding it.
Yes.
I mean, they won everything at the Golden Globes pretty much, and then I know that everything just kind of went downhill for them, and I don't know if that had something to do with this, or if they kind of felt like they had to give them one thing, opposed to just nothing.
Maybe, I don't know. It's very strange, but I watched the interview afterwards of the press interviewing Zoe Saldana, and it was a question, very good question, of what do you say to people who say that your film is offensive? Because there were a lot of people of Mexican heritage that said that this film is extremely offensive to them. And the film is a foreign film and was nominated in the foreign film category. Usually they don't do well and they don't win and get nominated for 13 awards. Like, that's insane. But the director is French. Why would you do a Hispanic movie? I'm very confused. But anyways, she basically said, after she was asked this question, well, that wasn't my experience. That I didn't find this offensive, and I thought that we were doing a justice. And I was just like, that's not how you respond to that.
Yeah.
And she also isn't Mexican. I can't remember. She's Colombian. So that's another thing, is just like, I don't know if you can even say that, because you aren't personally being affected by these issues as much as someone who can be. That was just a horrible response from her.
I feel like the whole movie was just in poor taste overall. But, it's over, it's done. It's, on to the next award ceremony. But hopefully this movie just they take some time and just reflect about what needs to happen moving forward.
Definitely. And I know that the lead actress, Carla Sofia Gascon, had some controversial tweets surface as well, where she was offending people of Muslim and Black descent and was also attacking the Oscars for trying to be more diverse. I just don't get it. And
kind of goes against everything that their film stood for in a sense. And it did not do well at the Oscars at all, but it took home some big awards at the Golden Globes, but I'm just glad other films got time to shine.
Yes, especially great films.
Yeah.
And now we have some honorable mentions. Wicked took home 2 awards, thankfully. Best Production Design and Best Costume Design. And the designer, Paul Tazwell, was the first Black man to actually take home this award for Best Costume Design in making history. And he made sure to say that in his speech and got a standing ovation from everyone. And obviously, costumes were going to go to Wicked. I mean, there were hundreds and hundreds of costumes in this movie. He did a phenomenal job. And I'm just going to plug, as a musical theater kid, if a musical is getting nominated for Best Costumes over other movies, they're going to win it. Like, they outdo it. But
absolutely, for sure. And The Substance didn't walk away empty-handed either. It won Best Makeup Design, and Dune Part 2 also won for Best Sound.
Yeah.
Overall, not a whole lot of interesting things happened during the Oscars. It's pretty boring. There were a few surprises here and there, but overall,
Yeah.
It was a pretty calm show.
Which is just surprising. But my favorite part was actually when they were presenting Best Costume Design, and they had a few of the actors from the movies that were up. I think it was it was Ellie Fanning, it was, I know Conclave was one, and I'm forgetting the last one of them, but Bowen Yang was presenting the award, and he showed up in his Wicked costume, which just typical Bowen Yang style. He's just so funny, and I just loved how he brought his comedic and expertise to the Oscar stage. And he was just hilarious, and he was the only one that showed up in costume and just made me smile.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
And I know Conan O'Brien hosted, and I thought he did a pretty okay job. I didn't think I thought he did pretty well. And, you know, I watched a couple interviews with him, and he just was really honored to have this opportunity, which, you know, I think is just, it's great.
Yeah.
And he took it and ran with it.
Definitely. Yeah. And the one other awkward moment was when the Amelia Perez songwriters were accepting their award for Best Original Song. They decided to sing it. And this movie and that song specifically had already been just like trashed online. So before the awards. So the fact that they sang it, I was like, okay, what are you doing here? But that's just circulating all over the internet. But we're actually going to send it to someone who was in Iowa City, who celebrated the biggest night as well. We have DITV's reporter Avery Arns in the newsroom, who was there to cover this year's excitement in the city of literature.
Yeah, guys, Iowa City knows how to celebrate the Oscars in style. The University of Iowa produces really great filmmakers, producers, and screenwriters that get consistently nominated for Academy Awards every single year. I traveled to Film Scene for Hollywood's biggest night during their annual Blue Carpet Bash. This event is meant for casual and die-hard Oscar fans who look forward to this event every single year. And this was the 11th annual Blue Carpet Bash, and all members of the Iowa City community were welcome. The executive director of Film Scene, Andrew Sherburne, is always excited to host this event.
I think it's really just the community that comes together around this. It's fun to gather together with people we know that love movies.
With Anora crowned this year's Best Picture winner and frankly Dune 2 snubbed, Film Scene hopes to continue the success and sense of community of the Blue Carpet Bash next year. From the University of Iowa, I'm Avery Arns.
And last week we had a very thrilling performance come to town. Mark Fortunato is in the newsroom with an in-depth look at Hansher's most recent performance.
That's right, ladies. Over the weekend, the touring Broadway musical Mean Girls made its way to Hansher, and its performance did not disappoint. Mean Girls has been touring all across the United States, from Florida to New Jersey to the Midwest, and even Canada. Word spread quickly around Iowa City that Mean Girls would make a 3-day stop here, and people of all ages flocked to the box office. Hansher is at full capacity with an estimated 6,000 people in attendance for the 3-day event.
It's just a real privilege to be able to offer these Broadway titles here in Iowa City, and to get such robust support from our campus and the broader community.
Hansher has always presented Broadway musicals. With its massive stage and seating, it's the only location on campus and in Iowa City to accommodate such a large production. With that, they wanted to create a plan that would allow for more productions to efficiently take place. Planning took around 18 months. Hansher has a lot of connections with Broadway, so they are constantly talking to producers and agents, which is how they're able to book such terrifically acclaimed musicals. So there was a lot of planning and negotiations, but as you saw this weekend, it pays off big time. Now I'll send it to Grace for a recap of the performance.
Thanks, Mark. Yes, this weekend I had the opportunity to go see Mean Girls at Hansher, and I really enjoyed the performance. Mean Girls has been nominated for 12 Tonys, but they haven't won one yet, and the musical was written by Tina Fey, who starred in the original 2004 hit film. Mean Girls is about a group of young girls in high school who form a clique and are trying to welcome in this new student, Katie, but she comes from Africa and they make fun of her, and she ends up kind of joining their group as a way to get back at these girls for being mean to other people in school. And these 3 girls, their leader is Regina George, and they call themselves the Plastics because they're so shiny and perfect. And the musical at Hansher was from March 7th through 9th, and I went to the matinee showing on Sunday. I really appreciated how engaged the audience was. Everyone pretty much was dressed in pink, which was super awesome. You could buy some really cool merch from the store. They had like on Wednesdays we wear pink shirts, which is like the famous quote from the show. And yeah, I'd say it was pretty close to sold out once the show kind of was about to start. And people were just really into it overall. I had a great time. I have seen Mean Girls before at the Kennedy Center in DC back home, so I have to say it is hard to beat that one. I just felt like at the Kennedy Center it was a little bit more extravagant and the acting was a little bit stronger than this one. I loved the pink and they told the story so well. But one thing that kind of bothered me a little bit was that the character Damien and Aaron, they both just lacked so much. Like, I did not feel like they did that great of a job in the roles. I don't know if that was just me, but they also just didn't speak super clearly, which was also kind of interesting as well. I don't know if they were understudies or what the deal was, but they just didn't seem quite as comfortable as some of the other main characters. The three main girls, the Plastics, were so good. I always loved the character Karen. I just think she's so funny, and she was perfect in this role, this show. The actress just did such a great job. One thing I thought was really cool is they used lunch trays as part of the choreography in the cafeteria, which was just kind of interesting and cool. And the one thing that did kind of bother me, call me, I don't know, maybe it's just because I've seen the movie, but Regina George, she didn't have this like long blonde hair, which I feel like is part of her character in general, is just like blonde just suits her, and she had this really dark hair, which just kind of bothered me because I'm so used to her being like, you know, she's blonde and that's just part of her, but they also had a really amazing set that was much better than Dear Evan Hansen's when I saw that at Hancher, which I just thought was super impressive. There's this scene where Regina George is using the copier machine, and the entire stage was, they had one big light go across it that was supposed to look like the copier machine as it was like making copies. But overall, I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's hard to live up to that Kennedy Center performance, but I would definitely recommend Mean Girls for just a fun girls day out kind of thing to do. And there were so many mothers and daughters there in pink, and I loved seeing it.
I'm so jealous that you got to see it and I didn't. I was in my own weekend of performances that will be talked about on the next show. But anyways, Mean Girls is one of my favorite musicals just based on the music.
The music is so good.
I haven't seen it.
So good.
I heard from a lot of people that you're correct, it didn't live up to expectations based on the acting, that it was just subpar acting.
Yeah.
But the lunch trays, I do want to mention, I think that's inspired by Heathers the musical. I don't know if you've seen it, but Heathers, there's the first or second song, all the ensemble are using lunch trays because it takes place in a cafeteria as well for choreography. So I think that has to do a little bit from Heathers inspo, because I find that those two musicals are very, very similar.
Very
similar. The trio, the girl that's the outcast that they're trying to, ring in, but I definitely draw a lot of connections to them. And I'm curious, you probably don't know the actress's name off the top of your head, but I've been seeing a lot on TikTok. There's this touring show, I don't know if it's the one you saw or a different one, of Mean Girls, and the lead actress, I want to say her name is Maya or Mia something, and she's brunette as well. And that Regina George that I've seen like videos on TikTok, she's like pretty much, it seems like freshly out of almost high school, like she's very young, but she's phenomenal singer, phenomenal actress. But I'm just curious if it's the same one. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah,
after.
we will. And yeah, like I said, she was great. I just felt like it's just such a signature look to be
definitely
this tall, blonde, long blonde hair. And I felt like I was a little confused, I guess, when she came out, because I was like, why wouldn't they just give her a blonde wig? Yeah. I don't know. But anyways, next time it's in town, we'll go see it together. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed myself.
More excitement in Iowa's music department. Last week, the University of Iowa's Black Pop Ensemble had their first show of the semester at Voxman Music Building. Now, DITV's Liz Schultz attended this concert and was able to talk with some of the ensemble members and capture the performance.
The University of Iowa's Black Pop Music Ensemble concert, directed by William Menefield, featured several pop and funk tunes throughout the decades.
We have a good time tonight. We love to funk and funk this time, your phone.
The Black Pop Music Ensemble, known as BPM, has been rehearsing since the start of the spring semester and aims to showcase jazz, R&B, hip-hop, and funk songs. Ensemble bass player and university graduate student had the opportunity to select the group's tunes for this performance.
Over this past year and a half, Dr. Menafield has kind of ushered me into a direction of being a band leader and just directing an entire ensemble, making a set list. I actually made the entire set list for this concert.
Many other student voices were showcased during well-known songs, including Give Up the Funk by Parliament Funkadelic, Do I Do by Stevie Wonder, and Ladies Night by Kool and the Gang. Menafield and performers worked to engage audience members, encouraging them to clap, sing along, and dance in their seats as the music filled the performance venue. The goal of the concert was to create a feel-good atmosphere, one of many reasons why students in the group are passionate about BPM.
Really just having a place for that, being able to play it, being able to learn it, learn the tropes, all of what actually goes into it. I just love being able to do that.
The concert was a way to shed light on the influence of Black pop music and showcase different talent. Group members have also made many worthwhile connections along the way.
Yeah, I've made so many friends along the way, and then just like the connections that I've made.
And thanks, Liz. That looks like an amazing performance, and we're so glad you got to go and experience that. But thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Word on the Street.
We will return to your screens in a few weeks right after spring break.
That's right. For Mark Fortunato and Avery Ahrens, I'm Grace Lathrop.
And I'm Hannah Lipsky, and we will see you next time on Word on the Street.